Is this thing on?
Oh, you're on.
Incidents and trends of foodborne outbreaks, domestic and international. Did you know that at the beginning of the 20th century, life expectancy was less than 50 years? At the time, contaminated food and water sources were the causes of most of these deaths. Untreated water, poor sanitation practices, and improperly heat-treated cans and bottles of food allowed for many pathogens to thrive in the food supply.
Upton Sinclair's The Jungle, a novel that shed light on poor food processing practices in the meat industry, led to the enactment of food laws that eradicated many pathogens from the food supply. Pathogens such as Mycobacterium tuberculosis, Clostridium botulinum, Salmonella typhi, and Vibrio cholera were the most pervasive. Over the course of World War II to the 1960s, food preparation practices changed dramatically. As new convenience food became available, food was no longer being grown at home, but being industrially mass-produced and distributed to retail. The maximization of meat production may have led to the rise of zoonotic pathogens such as Campylobacter jejuni, Salmonella enterica, and E. coli 0157H7. To control animal diseases and intensive animal production, meat producers began to vaccinate and give antibiotics to livestock, because most foodborne zoonotic pathogens do not visibly impact the animals. Additionally, the Agricultural Research Service was formed, as well as the CDC and National Salmonella Surveillance Service, both of which were formed to track large foodborne outbreaks.
During the information age, everything began to get more complex and interrelated. Demand for more variety increased international trade of food goods. In order to ship quality goods over long distances, new food preservation technologies emerged to extend the shelf life of foods. With the increase of technology and trade, sources of contamination are now due to before and after food processing. Jointly due to globalization and poor sanitation practices, agents like E. coli 0157H7, norovirus, Salmonella enterica, and Listeria monocytogenes have caused widespread multi-state and sometimes international outbreaks, some of which have been deadly and caused a public outcry for an increase in food safety. Joint advances in genetic technology and computer science has allowed for pathogens to be more quickly identified and tracked through organizations like FoodNet and PulseNet. Additionally, in the early 1990s, the Jack in the Box E. coli outbreak led to the implementation of programs like HACCP that focused on prevention. Also, in 2011, the President of the United States signed the Food Safety Modernization Act into law, a law that is making the largest food safety changes in the past 40 years.
Even with these advancements, foodborne outbreaks occur regularly in industrialized regions of the world like the US, most European countries, and developed Asian nations. Most of these regions have a solid infrastructure, and food regulatory standards are the norm. A significant part of the population has access to clean water and food processed, sold, and served under the watch of government agencies. Foodborne outbreaks caused by norovirus, Salmonella enterica, and pathogenic E. coli continue to remain prevalent in the food supply. In non-industrialized regions, such as parts of Latin America, Asia, and Africa, foodborne illnesses are a normal occurrence. Overall, the major pathogens of concern are Salmonella enterica, E. coli pathovirus, cholera, and Campylobacter. However, the leading cause of death in these regions are diarrheal diseases. This is due to a lack of access to clean water, unsafe storage of foods, and education on safe food processing and handling. When coupled with a compromised immune system due to malnourishment and/or AIDS, foodborne infections can have a compounded effect on health. The lack of food safety regulations, functioning inspection systems, and food safety education allow for pathogens to continue to circulate within a population.
Throughout history, there is a trend between the use of food production technologies, sanitary practices, and the pathogens of most affecting public health. Like the 20th century of the United States, the foodborne outbreaks in non-industrialized countries are due in large part because of the lack of legal infrastructure, food technology, education, access to clean water, and sewage processing. Now is the perfect time to mention that more than 80% of foodborne illnesses go unreported. Even in developed countries, all of the knowledge that we currently have about foodborne illness is tremendously limited, partly due to a lack of resources and the idea that foodborne illness is something that one can just ride out and not seek treatment. So please, don't just ride it out. Go and report your sickness to your local health department. Thank you.